Matthew 5:44 through 45 says, "But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and on the unjust." One of the most difficult concepts for Christians is to love your enemies. Let's think about that word for a moment, enemy. There are people we may dislike, people who may annoy us, and people we'd rather not be around sometimes. Certain cousins come to mind. But enemy usually falls into a different category all its own. Why is that? Because enemy means adversary. And there's no question of who the spiritual adversary of Christians is. An adversary, or an enemy, is someone who directly works against us, who seeks to undermine us and bring about failures for ourselves. But Jesus tells us to love our enemies. Again, this is one of the most difficult concepts for Christians. How can we love those that seek to destroy us? But could Christ not have asked the same question when he went onto the cross? I mean, all of humanity is fallen in sin, and therefore, by default, stands against God. But what did Christ do on the cross? He voluntarily took up his cross. He bore it for us. And while he was dying upon the cross, he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." Who did Christ die for? Was it for the Jews? Was it for the Gentiles? Did Christ die to save one race of man or one political class? I don't know about your Bible, but mine tells me that Christ died to save all mankind. As Christians, we are called to stand apart from this world and to advocate the things he has commanded of us. That includes loving those who persecute us, because he himself was persecuted by those he came to save. Now, love, as is commonly misunderstood, does not mean that we agree with everything somebody says or does. It doesn't mean we go about and compromise our convictions or become accepting of lies. Love, as Christ exemplified, means we call people to him by sharing the gospel, that we urge people to turn from their sins and follow Christ. I mean, if we know heaven and hell to be real, then the most hateful thing I believe we can do is to affirm sin and not try to lead people to Christ. Think about that for a minute. Christ died for all of us, even though we are fallen in sin and stand against him, even though by nature humanity is an adversary to God because of our sinful nature. But Christ loved us so much, he died for us anyways. And if Christ can die for all of us, then who are we as Christians to not follow his example and to not reach out in love to those who despise us?